Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon in Chicago, where it actually snowed yesterday, Tony. Is it snowing in D.C.?
Tony Kornheiser, we got a severe dusting. Thank God I'm working from home. Actually, about 11 o'clock this morning, gigantic flakes came down for 30 or 40 minutes. It didn't stick, though. It didn't even stick to a car windshield.
Close the schools for a week or two, I imagine. Dusting, close the schools at least. Shut the government down for a while.
Certainly over the lunch hour, people were sent home at 11 o'clock. No, it was fine. But there were snowflakes, actual snowflakes. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Giants release Daniel Jones, Indiana and Army face huge hurdles, and the NBA contemplates a totally different All-Star game structure. But we begin today with the Cleveland Browns scoring a major upset last night. They beat the Steelers in the snow in Cleveland on a late touchdown with about a minute to go, 24-19. Steelers wide receiver George Pickens said afterwards that the Browns aren't a good team and that their victory was because of the snow and the refs. Wilbon, do you agree with Mr. Pickens?
Okay, George Pickens is not speaking for like Terry Bradshaw and, Mel Blunt and, you know what I mean? Chuck Noll, and Franco Harris, Mean Joe Green. I don't care. Pickens, who? No, he doesn't matter. Tony, you and I, we hinted at the possibility yesterday this could happen, and then neither one of us had the guts to follow through and say, "Oh, it will happen." I mean, look, this loss. That's right. This loss is going to be overstated. It has been overstated all day on this network. It's not that big a deal. It's a division loss. You're not going to go undefeated if you're the Steelers even, and I still think they're a threat in the AFC. Maybe not as big as Kansas City and Baltimore, maybe though. But you're not going to go win, just undefeated in your division all the time. These are division games. It's on the road. It's tough. Not a loss you want to have hanging on you. But we knew Cleveland was capable of this. And now, Tony, a trap game situation where they just came off playing Baltimore. And now they got Cincinnati. So they could lose again in division and likely will. Not as big a deal as some want to make it out to be.
I'll go back to George Pickens for a moment, that silly things are said in the aftermath of games, made more silly by the fact that you have to play this team again.
Again.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. When I was looking at the game, it seemed to me that the snow was falling on both teams, not just one team.
Imagine
it seemed
that.
to me that Pittsburgh had 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, as did Cleveland. I don't know about the refs, but I think Mr. Pickens at some point will rue the day that he said these things. Yes, yesterday we talked about these numbers. The numbers have now expanded. The Steelers under Mike Tomlin are now 1-8 in Thursday night games on the road. The Steelers, by and large, since 1980, are 0-8 in Thursday night games on the road against division opponents. Yes, it's a trap game. You come out of beating a good team on a Sunday, you go on the road on Thursday to a bad team. It's a trap game. But there is another part of this, Mike, that the Steelers, and we have to mention this, they have 3 losses. They're not to the good teams on the Steelers' schedule. They have lost to the Cowboys. They've lost to the Browns. They've lost to the Indianapolis Colts. Those are not winning teams, and those are the games they've lost. That is a dangerous position for a team that wants to be a good team.
Tony,
you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat.
I'm glad you said it that way. Wants to be a good team. They're good, but they're not great. They're not great.
They're not great.
Now, they got time to get there, but they're not there yet, and they're susceptible to those kinds of games last night. Let's move to college football.
One small thing, one real small thing.
Sure.
One small thing. Jameis Winston has now beaten Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Jameis Winston, now in Cleveland, having failed where he was in Tampa, nothing in New Orleans, I don't believe. He's a productive player at another team, and he's beaten 2 good teams. He has.
Yeah, and they got a quarterback dilemma in Cleveland when that other kid comes back, whenever that is. Tony, big day in college football tomorrow. I know you will get off the golf course in time to watch Indiana and maybe Army, both unbeaten and both underdogs anyway tomorrow. 5th-ranked Indiana faces number 2 Ohio State at the Horseshoe at noon Eastern. And at night, 19th-ranked Army takes on number 6 Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium. Tone, you're going to be excited, more excited for the 12-team college football playoff. if the big boys, Ohio State and Notre Dame, win or lose tomorrow?
Honestly, I'm going to be more excited if they win because it will confirm to me and assure to me that they are two of the best teams in the country. If Indiana and Army were to win, I would say, well, maybe they got lucky. I won't say that about Ohio State, and I won't say that about Notre Dame. The team that I would say got lucky would be Northern Illinois at that point. Mike, I want the best 12 teams in the playoffs, and as you know, I believe that most of the best 12 teams are in the Big Ten and they're in the SEC. To me, that's because of the teams that were just added. Teams like Oregon, teams like Texas. They not only make a good conference better, but they extend the geographic implications of the playoffs to the West Coast, to the far Southwest and something like that. They make it broader, not smaller. When it was a 4-team playoff, they were dominated by Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson, 3 Southern schools. That's out of the question now, and I think that's because of the expansion of those 2 conferences.
Tony, I wouldn't fight you on that. I really wouldn't. When we get more specific about, these 2 particular teams, Ohio State and Notre Dame, I'm going to watch the 12-team playoff no matter who's in it. I'm going to be fascinated no matter who's in it. So I'm fascinated no matter what the committee, what stupid vote they have, which is what I tell you and Booger, and you guys frown at me for saying it. I don't really care. I'm going to watch the playoff because it's the playoff. And I'm rooting for Indiana just because I think Indiana's a better story. I care what happens week by week and in small detail in that conference. It's my conference. God, Notre Dame. I mean, I grew up 92 miles exactly from the campus, and I usually root against Notre Dame, and I'm going to root against them tomorrow. How can you not root for Army? Army hasn't beaten them since, I think, 1958, and I know you have a soft spot because I know you have told me the prettiest place in college football to go on a Saturday in America is Army. You told me that.
Without question. Look, okay. I'm going to speak for you and me both in this. As a sports writer, I'm rooting for the underdog. As a sports writer, I'm rooting for Army. I'm rooting for Indiana. It's an easier column. It's a better column. But to me, in terms of the playoff, it just leaves some cars parked at the side of the road. And I think it hurts finding the best team in the country. But we'll move on now. In fact, we'll move to your wheelhouse, Wilbon, the NBA All-Star Game. They're not going to do the U.S. versus the world format, as you have always championed. Instead, they're going to a 4-team tournament where one of the 4 will be a Rising Stars team. The tournament will be played in what is being described as a pickup-style format. Semifinal games will be played to 40 points. The final will be played to 25. So, Wilbon, does the reported new structure of the All-Star Game sound like an improvement?
It's a joke. It's a joke, and it's pretty gutless. Because, players have made it known they don't really want to compete. They've made this known through their actions and their words. Their actions show it because they don't even play. It's not a game. They just go out and they have a dunk contest. It's not even really a dunk contest because they've had that the night before. So I had a couple players, Tony, that'll be, if we put goats on the stage, it would describe them. I'm not going to name any names. But they have said to me, what is this? If players today don't have any pride and they don't want to play in the All-Star game, then cancel the damn All-Star game, right? Yeah. The NFL canceled the Pro Bowl, and I've had a Hall of Fame NFL player say to me to my face recently, then cancel the NBA All-Star game. If they aren't interested, why should we be? Why should I have interest in a game that today's NBA players don't give a damn about playing? And they won't do U.S. versus the world because they don't want to be competitive. They don't want to have their competitive spirit stoked during the 9-day layoff they get. Okay, fine. I'm okay for the layoff. But don't ask me to watch that junk. If you want to put out there a team of under 23s versus the vets, I'd watch that. A full game, I'd be okay with that. But this other stuff, please, just stop. So it's embarrassing.
Just listening to all of it makes your head spin, because what are the notes that I wrote? It sounds impossibly complicated. It feels like it will take days to play, and it seems completely unnecessary. I mean, I don't particularly like this. The one statistic I will put out there is this. The game last year ended with a score of 211 to 186. 211. Come on. That is, you called it junk. No, let's get your real phrase in there. It's hocus pocus junk. They don't want to play this game.
They don't want to be out there.
They take 40-foot shots. They don't want to guard anybody. So much like you, and I do like U.S. versus the world. Hockey did that for a while, but now hockey went to 4 teams, and I don't even watch that. I mean, I don't want to be the guy that says it's terrible. I want to give it a chance.
It's terrible.
But to me, if you go to a skills contest, maybe a 3-on-3 game with players you want to see breaks out, 3-on-3 to 10, and you're happy. Let's take a break. Coming up, Daniel Jones requests his release, and the Giants comply. What are the futures for him and his former team?
We at least played to 11 on the playground. Aaron Judge and Shohei have had some incredible seasons, but are their best years still to come? We're going to read some email next. Tony, why should I care more about your job than you do? I'm fresh out.
I don't think it's solvable. I think it's sort of like the kickoff in the NFL. It's not really solvable. They don't want to play.
I'll go see Daytona.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by...
Time to check in with the checkered masses and mail time.
Mail
see what's
time?
first here. Here we go, Wilbon. Daniel Jones asked for his release, and the Giants gave it to him. Do you think he has a future as a starter in the NFL?
I'm not going to get into the word future. He's going to start games in the NFL. Again, he's 27. The Giants got rid of him. Man, you talk about a fall. And talk about the Giants looking like morons for giving him a bunch of money and not giving it to Saquon Barkley and then demoting him and sending him to the practice team. Stop. He's going to start games because he's 27. He's a great athlete. And there's a dearth of quarterbacks in the NFL at all levels. QB1, QB2, QB3. My over-under on the number of games Daniel Jones will start in the NFL going forward, 15. Just like Joe Flacco's 107 years old, he starts games. Do people never learn, ever?
So I'm going to answer this question by going back to Jameis Winston and how productive Jameis Winston has been now in Cleveland, and how productive Geno Smith has been now in Seattle, and how productive Sam Darnold has been now in Minnesota, and how productive Baker Mayfield has been now in Tampa. They were high draft picks. They washed out in their first teams. It didn't work at all. That didn't work in Cleveland for Baker Mayfield. It didn't work in Tampa for Jameis Winston. Didn't work at the Jets for the other two guys. This happens a lot. You get another chance. You always get another chance. Now, not everybody gets another chance. It may not be that Trey Lance gets another chance. It may not be Zach Wilson gets another chance. Marcus Mariota did not get another chance. But it happens so often, Mike, that I believe Daniel Jones will get another chance.
Of course he will.
I think you're being conservative on 15. I think he'll start more games than that.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. I would not.
Okay.
I get it. He can start a ton of games for a team, for multiple teams.
What are the chances that the best seasons for Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani are yet to come?
Tony, I changed my mind on this through some research done primarily by Uber producer Matthew Kelleher.
By others, not by you.
We looked this stuff up, and Tony, it was surprising, even though you and I lived through some of this stuff, it's still surprising to hear later. That like Henry Aaron, just for instance, if we're going to take one of the greats of all time, arguably in the conversation for greatest player ever, Henry Aaron's greatest season may have been at 37. I think his highest OPS in his career was at 37 years old in 1971. I mean, there were players. Babe Ruth had one of his greatest seasons at 36. Lou Gehrig was MVP at 33 and then had another great season, which may have rivaled that at 34. Shohei is still 30. Will turn 31 next season. So, yes, he's got a 3 or 4 year window right there. And if you go to 36 or 37, he's got a 5-year window, 5-6 year window. Judge, lesser window, he's 33. But, Tony, it's quite possible. I'm not going to rule it out that those guys could have their career seasons still in front of them.
I'm certainly betting on Ohtani. He's going to pitch next year. He's going to actually be Babe Ruth next year. He will cut down on stolen bases, but he won't necessarily cut down on home runs, and he might become an elite pitcher. And if the pitching doesn't work out, I can see him doing 60-60 at some point. As you say, Judge is older. He'll be 33 in April. But I said on this show a few years ago, he'll never approach 62 home runs again. He'll never get close. He had 58 this year, and he had a higher batting average, and he had more RBI. So I'm not betting against him. And if Juan Soto signs back with the Yankees, that helps Judge, and the ballpark helps Judge. No, I don't think for a second that we have automatically seen their last seasons of greatness. No, I don't. I think I'm with you on this, right?
Yeah, when you go to the all-time greats, I mean, Ted Williams kept having great seasons, preposterously old relative to the times in particular.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not ruling those guys out for more greatness.
I would bet that Pete Rose had seasons where he had 200 hits in his mid to late 30s. I'd bet on that. Enough email. Let's take one last break, but still to come, Marc-Andre Fleury has a goaltending moment he would like to forget.
And could Kansas beat Colorado for its third straight win over a ranked team? That's another goodie tomorrow. That's a goodie.
I didn't know that Fleury was still in the league. I remember him from 100 years ago in Pittsburgh. I think Flacco's old. I think Fleury's older than Flacco. I do.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Bullet Frontier Whiskey. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 86th birthday on Sunday, Oscar Robertson. History lesson, kids. The Big O was simply the best all-around basketball player in the world when he was playing. He was a 6'5" combination point and shooting guard. After playing at the University of Cincinnati, Robertson was a territorial pick of the Cincinnati Royals in 1960, the same year Jerry West went to the Lakers. They were both on the 1960 U.S. Olympic basketball team that won gold in Rome. Like West, Robertson only won one NBA title. He was 32 years old when he went to Milwaukee and teamed up with 23-year-old Lou Alcindor to win in the 1971 season. For his career, Robertson averaged 25.7 points, 9.5 assists, 7.5 rebounds. He was magic before magic.
So I'm going to hit you with a quick question. Happy belated birthday by a day to Earl, the great Earl Monroe, who turned 80 yesterday. If you were going to take a young kid growing up with the NBA and you were going to pay your money to see one or the other, I know we're splitting hairs here, you take him to see which of these all-time greats?
Oscar or Earl?
Yeah.
I would make sure they were playing each other. There's a great story in the Washington Post about Earl Monroe right now. It's a great story.
It's great to hear.
Happy anniversary, Mike Tyson. On this day, 38 years ago, Iron Mike became the youngest heavyweight champion ever when he destroyed Trevor Berbick in less than 2 rounds to win the WBC title at the age of 20. I saw a replay of that fight last week. Tyson threw about 10,000 punches. Berbick went up in the air and down in a heap. Tyson had 33 knockouts within the first 3 rounds of his fights, most notably Michael Spinks in about 14 seconds. I was at that fight. So this anniversary is 38 years ago. So Logan Paul, the older of the 2 Paul brothers, was still 9 years from being born. Logan is 29 now. Jake, the influencer, who beat Tyson, is 27. At 58, Tyson is older than the Paul brothers combined.
You know what our bosses at ABC should do? They should just have Wide World of Sports on Saturday, right now, every week, and put on Ali Tyson. Ali Tyson. What's better than that? They got stuff on TV better than that now? The answer is hell no. Ali Tyson. Ali Tyson.
Happy trails to an easy save for Marc-Andre Fleury. The future Hall of Famer had an embarrassing moment last night, just 27 seconds into his 1,000th career start. The Wild's backup goalie, he had not played since November 7th. He whiffed while trying to clear a slow-rolling dump in, gifting a goal that put the Oilers up 1-0. Fleury said the puck bounced over his stick, adding, quote, "It was dumb, though. I let out a couple of fringe and fudge, and then started over and stopped the next one," unquote. In fact, Fleury stopped 31 shots in all and got the win in Minnesota's 5-3 victory. And Edmonton's Leon Draisaitl got credit for perhaps the least intentional goal he has ever scored.
Maybe there was bad ice. Maybe it's like a infield, a bad hop on the infield going over the glove of Brooks Robinson or some all-time great field. Even it happens to anybody, to the best of them, as we used to say.
It happens. One omission, Brandon Allen, not Brock Purdy, will start for the 49ers against the Packers on Sunday. And let's go quick to the big finish. Let's
do it.
The Magic snapped the Lakers' 6-game winning streak. Your thoughts?
The Magic is going to be a team we're going to be talking a whole lot about as we get to spring and Banchero gets back in that lineup. Five-star high school quarterback Bryce Underwood has changed his commitment from LSU to Michigan. Is that significant at all?
He's a local Michigan kid, probably getting a pile of cash. Brian Kelly can't feel good about this. Kansas upset ranked teams Iowa State, BYU in its last two. How about Colorado tomorrow?
I think it'll help Kansas to play at Arrowhead, but I think Colorado's got incentive. They got to win that game to keep their hopes alive in the playoffs. Orlando Pride, Washington Spirit meet for the NWSL Championship Saturday night. Who you got?
I'm going local. The Washington's my team. Last one, women's college hoops this weekend. Notre Dame, USC, and South Carolina, UCLA. Who you got?
I never root against UCLA, the women's basketball team, but the two USCs, Tony, got to go with the two USCs.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. Ken Samet, thank you.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. And now, going to your weekend, your sports.
PTI. Me with our PTI bonus topic.
Hi, Wilbon. Who has had the more impressive season so far? Jim Harbaugh, your boy, or John Harbaugh?
My boy, Jim Harbaugh. I mean, they were a non-factor last year. They won 5 games the whole season. They've won 7 now. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, look, it pains me that the Bears didn't hire the guy they once drafted to be starting quarterback. About, I don't know, what is it now, 37 years ago when they drafted him out of Michigan. Jim Harbaugh should be a Bear. Instead, he's a Charger. And he's winning, and he's a threat. And the other day I gave the Wilbon Power Index, and I forgot to put the Steelers up there right under Buffalo. Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and even though Pittsburgh lost, is still in my top 5 in the conference. But the Chargers, who I still call San Diego, and love them when they wear the baby blues, look what Jim Harbaugh has done. He puts his arm around his quarterback. He gets every part of that team playing superbly. They love being there, playing for him. Jim Harbaugh is your answer.
Yeah, I wish I could argue with you. I'm not going to be able to argue with you. John Harbaugh, though, historically beats Jim Harbaugh every time they play each other in every sport. That's just a family fact. But last year, as you say, the Chargers, they were 5-12. I think they're 7-3 right now. That's an enormous improvement. And Jim Harbaugh got there after taking Michigan to the national championship. John Harbaugh last year was 13-4. They lost at home in the AFC Championship game to Kansas City, 13-4. They've already lost 4 times this year, and they're better with Derrick Henry than they were last year.
Should be.
And this is not, I'm not knocking John Harbaugh on any level, but the answer to the question is who's having the more impressive year? It's his brother Jim. That is, I don't know how you could go the other way on this. I don't.
You can't go the other way until John Harbaugh walks over on the sideline if he has to, or up to the booth to tell his offensive coordinator, if you don't get the ball to the biggest, fastest dude on the field since Jim Brown, you're out of here. And don't tell me a coach would never do that, because Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan once got into it on the sideline in the Orange Bowl during a Monday night game. And Ditka said, if you don't change the coverage, we can take it out back. That's what John Harbaugh ought to say to Todd Monken. That's it. Don't argue with me. We're done.
Pardon the Interruption is brought to you by USPS Ground Advantage Service. Ship reliably and affordably this season.